Okay, I begin with a 16 gauge sterling band that I made 3/8 wide to the size I need, like the ring size I need. To that, I'm going to put 14 gauge sterling square wire rings, to one on each side on the outer sides, and I'm going to solder them on with about 65% solder, and this will form the borders for the inlay. Then I took Kingman turquoise and I cut 11 stones to fit within the recesses of the band. They need to fit between the two outer bands. And it's just a matter of cutting the stones and checking them to make sure they fit. Next, I'm going to cut a .100 wide by 3-inch long strip of sterling to be used as the stone dividers on the ring, and these are going to go in, and I measure them as I cut them. I'm going to measure them to make sure they fit in there. I also measure the inside of the ring to know how long to cut them, and I'm going to put a mark where I want my dividers as I go along. Now, some people prefer to put these bars in first, then cut the stones to match, and I've cut the stones and I put them in there, and then I figure out where my bar needs to go, and I put a mark, and then I will go along and I will solder each divider into the ring. Some people just glue the dividers in, but I just prefer to solder them in with 430-degree solder, because once you get these dividers put down in there with the 400, then you're going to have glue in there on them stones also holding all this together. So there's no chance of those dividers coming out. And being soldered in is a little tedious rather than gluing them in, but this is just the way I did this particular ring, and it worked real good. Anyway, 400-degree solder, you can put them in with just a mini torch and some liquid flux. And I just hold them with some needle nose. And as I put them in, I sand a wedge on each stone towards the bottom. So when they go in real tight. And it just makes sure they fit down in there. And I mark the stones, and I mark the pocket on the ring, so I know which stones go in which pocket. Like I'll put 2 dividers in, and then I'll find the stone. I'll know the stone that matches those 2 dividers, and then I'll put a number on that stone on the bottom side, and I'll also put a number on the ring pocket. And of course, soldering and fluxing, I have to keep renewing my ring pocket letters, but that way I know exactly which stone goes where. And you can notice they stick way up above the ring, but they're going to be sanded, down once everything's dried and done. So you can see here how I'm marking the stone, and I've got the pockets marked on the ring. And using 400-degree, the bars will tend to try to come out on you when you heat it up again to put the next divider in. So I use Cool Jewel, and I just put it on the dividers I've already got in there, and that keeps the heat off of them. This is good stuff. And then I can solder the next one in without worrying about whether the one right before it's going to come out. Now, I've got to admit that 1 or 2 did loosen up on me, but it was no problem to get them back where they need to go. And it's just a repeated process, soldering the dividers in. Now, if you want to glue the dividers in, that's fine with me. This is just the way I did it. You can see here that I got all the dividers in the ring, and they're all numbered, and I've got all my turquoise sitting over here in the little dish, and they're all numbered. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go along and clean the solder the overflow out of the ring, so my stones fit down true, and I don't have any trouble with that. Then I take epoxy 330. This is the epoxy I always use for inlays and stuff. And I buy this from Rio Grande, but you can get it several places. It's real important to mix it evenly, and that way it'll make sure it hardens. And mix it thoroughly. Now I put a little bit of glue in one pocket, and I get the stone for that pocket, and I fit it. Then I'll go along and I do this for each stone and each pocket. And the 330, it lasts about 15-20 minutes before it gets hard, probably 15. So, you don't have to be in a real big rush, but, if it's best not to mix up a great big batch of it. Anyway, you can see here I'm just fitting them in there a little at a time. And then once we get all these fitted in, we let them dry real good. And you can see how they're all in place and they're all sticking up above the ring. Then I'll take this out to my lapidary equipment and I will bring it down to flush. Now here I'm using a Dremel with a little sanding disc 220 to take them down some and kind of round them off so they don't, the lapidary don't catch it or something and yank one out. I start with a 100 grit belt, then I go to a 220 belt, then a 40 mic, and I use water, of course, and I just keep on fine tuning it. And man, this ring is pretty. I would love to make myself one of these. This was for a customer that custom ordered it. Here I've changed it to a finer belt 30 mic and finally a 9 mic. And I keep using the water to it. And this is the 9 mic wheel here. And I really like the way it's looking. And I look for any pockets that I might have missed. But everything looks good to me. So then I take it to my buffer. And I just shine it up with red compound. And I usually go to I'll start with a white compound. Then I'll go to a red. And then I'll finish up with a green compound. But the red compound does the job too. And there you go. We got it all finished up and cleaned. Looks really nice. I like it. Here's a picture of it finalized. Hey, like and subscribe.